Hi, my name is Princess, and I just want to park here for 5 minutes to tell you about my ChiPy project. So first, there's a little bit about me. Before, I worked mostly with data visualization and analysis in R, but I wanted to switch over to Python and learn how to do all of the same things in Python because it's cool. I'm interested in data analysis and visualization because I'm a science writer. I like to make complex things easy for people to understand. And what better way to do that than to take a big data set and make it look pretty. So the data set I used for my project was PROPUBLICA parking ticket data. So basically they got a massive data set from the city of Chicago, and this was years and years of parking ticket data. So stuff like the license plate, the location, what officer wrote the ticket. So this was just something that I thought I could dive into and see how people got on the boot list. So I was interested in this because I wanted to use a public data set. Most of my experience with data before is with research, so I wanted to use something with public data, and I wanted to see if I could find anything new. Instead of using the full data set, I think it's 9 million rows, I just used a 50,000 row sample, because that's a lot smaller. All right, so the tools I used were Python packages having to do with data analysis and visualization. The first two are analysis and data manipulation. The second two, Matplotlib and Seaborn, were what I used to do some quick visualizations. So this is some of my first plots for the data. The first one is total payments, so this is just what people paid on their tickets. The top one is for the whole random sample. The bottom one is for people on the boot list. You see that big peak at 0 because if you got on the boot list, you probably have 3 or more tickets you didn't pay, so that makes sense. A few of my struggles with this project, syntax was a big one. I think if you're learning a different language, you know how to do everything in one thing, and you're like, all right, how do I do this in another thing? So that was one big barrier I went through. Finding a good visualization package, I went through a lot of different Python packages to see which one I liked better. And the big one was like, there's just limits to what you can do with some data sets. In this data set, I really wanted to follow people as they got on the boot list and see what tickets contributed to that. But it turns out instead of keeping a record of every time someone got a ticket, once they got on the boot list, they overwrote everything else, so I couldn't track that. So I learned basic Python and the pandas package. I feel a lot more comfortable going through stuff with that than I did before. I learned what graphing packages I like. And I learned public data is messy, even when someone else has gone through and cleaned it. Even though this data set was something that ProPublica went through and took out all the errors and labeled and had an extensive labeling system, it was still hard to do the things I wanted to. So for graphing, I ended up using the Plot9 Python package. And I mostly did that just because it's a clone of ggplot, which is in R, and I didn't have to learn new syntax. So this is one graph from that, and this is just payments across different notice levels. In the top right corner, that's uses the label for people on the boot list. You see that big peak around 0 again. And then in the bottom is like just if you got a violation. So you can just take a quick look at everything across here. Here's another graph I made with Plot9. This is just the current amount due. There's a big peak around 150, so most people on the boot list owe about $150. And this is just the same plot for everybody, like across the whole sample. So in the future, I want to add in interactivity. I didn't get to do that with this project because I was so stuck in the analysis. So I want to play around with a bouquet and maybe even D3. I want to make those graphs a lot prettier because, as you saw, they aren't that pretty. And I want to do a little more analysis with the data. So thank you.